morning was it might even land this week. So we're not far from the final gold standard version being available to you to download through the Extreme portal. But some of you might have sat in on Infor's call last week, and they did cover a lot of this information. So I apologize if we're redundant, but we're planning to actually show you the software today. I don't really like PowerPoints, but I've got a few of them just to get through quick, and then I'm going to be showing you the actual software and how it works. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. So 8.3 is the latest update to the Infor CRM package. It's been a long time coming, and there's a lot going on, especially under the hood, and a lot of nice things have changed in the user interface also, which we're going to be showing you. So I'll start out by saying that for compatibility, this is going to be the first release that's fully compatible and qualified with Windows 10 and the Edge browser. I don't know how you feel about that, but there you go. You can use Edge if you want. Certainly IE11, Firefox, Chrome, or Safari are all still supported as well, but Edge is what ships with Windows 10, so it's there if you want it. And then also we're fully compatible and qualified now with Microsoft Office 2016. So that means the Outlook, the Word merging, and the export to Excel features are all going to function correctly and are fully supported and qualified for Office 2016. All right, now some of the other changes that I'll show you have to do with the admin tools. And so this is part of the story where they're making a lot of headway, and I think this is a good thing. They're migrating more and more of the admin things that you would have had to have done in either the administrator client, the architect client, or even the LAN sales client. Each of those back-end tools had certain things you had to go to one of those tools to do it. So it was a little bit confusing to folks to try to figure out, well, where do I have to go to do this or that? So you're going to see that they took a big chunk of a lot of those back-end functions and moved them now into the web client. There's still a few things that they have not moved, which I suspect are on the radar. Things like, you know, sales process creation and so forth, and a few other minor things, but for the most part, now I would think most customers could get by with just the web client to do all the typical admin things, and we'll show you that. Okay, so let's get into the software itself, and I'll kind of walk you through what I think are some of the highlights. Now, the first one that's going to appeal to everybody universally is performance, and they have spent obviously a considerable amount of time optimizing the performance of 8.3 web client. And what I find is just kind of in a seat of the pants, it's almost approaching the LAN client as far as performance. It's always gotten a little bit better with each and every release, that's true. Kind of pieces and parts of it got a little quicker here and there. But what I've really noticed is that there's now nothing you do, even like changing groups and changing entities and navigating from one record to the next, everything is now like less than 2 seconds. And most of the things that change are almost as fast as I can click, as you can see. So it very, very quickly navigates from, you know, tabs and groups and entities and so forth. A noticeable improvement. Everybody appreciates that. And I'm really thrilled that they spent apparently so much energy making this thing snappier and more responsive. I never see this, you know, the little spinning icon anymore, or sit and wait for half-drawn screens to fully kind of become interactive with me. Everything just rips right along very quickly, and I love it. So hats off to Infor for putting a lot of attention into the performance of this thing, because it shows. Okay, now the next kind of major interface change they've made is they've introduced a new grid. And so all of your tabs, out-of-the-box tabs that have one-to-many data, like notes and history that we're looking at now, those all have this new style of grid. And so you might ask, well, what's the difference? The difference is you have this little hamburger icon here now, and if I click on that, it expands the notes. So if the history items have notes, which most do, by opening up the view slightly, it sort of fattens it up horizontally, and you can see now all the notes, and if there's more than what the screen will show you in the normal view, you can click on See More and see all of the notes that are a part of that particular item. And then you can quickly collapse it all back down to that single line view that you're kind of used to today by doing it, just clicking the little icon once again. So I love it. As you know, previously the notes would kind of hang over in a little goofy box on the right-hand side, and it was never sized quite right, and it didn't word wrap quite right, and it was really tough to read the notes, or you'd have to open it up and read it that way. So I just love the fact that everything there is now visible to me right here in this expanding view. And so that's their new one-to-many grid, and you'll see that throughout pretty much everything, tickets and assets, quotes, everything, opportunities, they all present you with that new grid layout, that new expandable, collapsible grid. I'm not sure what the official is, but there it is. And I've been told, too, that if you're upgrading from an older system, you don't have to use this new grid if you don't want to. It's just another choice that you have when you're building your screens and views as to whether or not you want to use it. I think you would, but that's just me. Okay, so one other thing you can do here is, as a user, I can pick and choose what columns of data I care to see. So everything is turned on right now, but let's say, I don't use category for activities, and so I don't want to see it taking up space. So I can shut that off, and I don't really care about what type it is. I can shut that off. So again, as a user, I can control what columns of data show up. And of course, these are all reconfigurable too, left to right, by dragging and dropping the order. All of them are clickable, sortable, as you would expect, kind of like what a spreadsheet would do. So they just really made a lot of nice improvements by using this new tab grid plugin thing. A nice improvement in usability, I think. So there you go. What else did they do? They split orders and quotes. In all previous versions, quotes and orders were the same thing, same table, same data, except you just picked a radio button to say, is this a quote or is this an order? Well, that's all changed now. So now they have a brand new entity that stands by itself that's just called quotes. And so that's what it is. Doesn't look all that different than the current quote screen. But you'll notice something that's a little different down here below is you can convert it to a sales order. So the way we all work is, we work opportunities. The customer asks for a quote. Then they finally say yes if all the planets align, and then you probably have to create some kind of a sales order. And so that's what the sales order area is for, is it allows you to convert a quote into a sales order, but you don't have to do it that way. Of course, you can create a sales order right from scratch. It doesn't have to be linked to a quote or an opportunity, but if that's the way you work and sell, opportunity, quote to sales order, you're good to go, because just with one click, it creates a new sales order, scrapes all the data from that quote, and away you go. Now, those of you that have integrated systems with one of the Infor ERP packages, I'll talk about that a little bit here. This is the first release now that has full two-way integration built into it, right out of the box. And so they're really ramping up their effort to make integrating CRM with your Infor accounting package seamless, simple, and I think they've gone a long way to doing that. And so this includes things like promoting this all the way to an accounting order, which is what the promote button would do. It would lock this order in CRM, and then using Ion integration, push that over into your accounting system as an order that would need to be processed over there. All right, so next thing I'll show you is all of the entities now have the ability to have data imported into them. The earlier versions, you could only import leads. 8.2, you could import contacts and accounts. And now with 8.3, every entity in the system has the ability for you to configure it to be importable, which means that when you're in the list view, like let's say for opportunities, you can click the import, you can go out and grab a file, and you can go through this little wizard, and it will actually end up allowing you to import opportunities. Now, I'm not exactly sure why you would do that, but I just want to demonstrate that they've expanded this import capability significantly in this release, including now record matching capabilities so that you're not introducing duplicates. And all this is configurable and works pretty well from my kicking the tires on it. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is some of that admin functionality I mentioned. So if we transition over into the administrator area, the first thing you'll notice is there's a new nav area called the Office Profile. And again, this was one of the areas you had to get into the administrator app and dig around in there to get to this stuff. This has all been migrated over now into the web. That's great. And so here you can see your Infor CRM licenses. You can also control things like password security, and they've actually expanded quite a bit the complexity requirements, if you want, for passwords, like they must contain letters and numbers, force users to change, don't allow blank, things like that. And then there's some control over lockout attempts and so forth. So you can see they've improved that significantly, and you, again, can manage it right within here. So then we have office hours, which is generally used for support people, and then we can also control now multi-currency in here. So if you were to turn on multi-currency, you can now define things like exchange rates for all the various countries that you might do business in. And then we have some service and support defaults that have been migrated here, which is great. And then the other big news is the way the help system works. In the previous version, the help files themselves were all sitting on your server, and now those can be hosted in different places. And so you can have a different help document for the customer portal people, and then a different help URL for your standard web users, and even have different languages of those help files for the international people. So again, it's moving it off of a file path into more of a URL path, and it makes it easier for you to manage the help files, modify those help files, which a lot of people do, so that their help files reflect exactly what they've customized or modified in their system. So I think it's pretty neat that they've done that. Okay, what else is new? And that is, we'll go to the Entity Manager. Now, the Entity Manager has always been here. It's been here since 8.2, but the big news here is new entities. So if you wanted to create a new entity, you can now do that completely from within the web client. And so what that means is, so if we add, let's say, just test in here and click next, the system walks you through a wizard to help you set the new entity up. So we can say we do want to relate it to an existing entity, and then we can say, well, what entity? Let's say we're creating a new account view or screen. So we'll say it's going to be at the account, and here you can say, is it a one-to-one or a one-to-many? And then you click next again. These are the mandatory fields for relational tables in the system, so that's all set up for me. But now you can add more fields right on the fly to that new entity you're creating. And an entity, again, is a data table with typically a view, some kind of a form over the top of it. And so we can add new fields while we're creating this new entity. We can add all the fields into the database and into the system that we want to start collecting data in. And one of the neat ones that they've added is a pick list field type. And so not only can you add a new pick list field, but you can also create the actual pick list or use one of the existing ones right here. And so I can say this is going to be a new pick list, and it's going to be a pick list called test. And here's your controls about multi-selects and required and so forth. And then down here, this is where I can actually start entering the actual items that are going to be in that drop-down pick list. So you can start to fill those out and create your entire pick list from here. And then once you click OK, it's going to create the new entity, all the new fields I told it I wanted, including any pick list fields. Even calculated fields now are included in this particular wizard. And the whole thing gets built in the background pretty much instantaneously, and off you go. So I don't know how they did it, but they got a lot of programming happening under the hood, I'm sure, to make this now very simple to do, which is great. Should involve a lot less need for developers, potentially, for you to be adding simple things into the system. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is the new Outlook integration. And again, this kind of blows my mind that they've got this figured out. I don't know how it does it, but I'm going to show you what it's doing because I think it's pretty amazing. And well, what's so exciting? Because now when you create a new activity in Outlook, you will notice down below they added in this new panel which allows you to link this activity to one of the CRM records. So we're going to say it's Abbott Limited, and because I chose Abbott Limited, it now shows me the contacts at Abbott Limited. And if there's an opportunity or a ticket for Abbott that this is related to, you can add that all right here on the fly, or just click the X if you don't, and put in, we'll just say test again. And the other thing that it's doing is it's actually going to, when I save it, it's going to push it to CRM instantly. So the second I hit OK, that brand new activity is now showing up over on my calendar view and my activity view right here in CRM. So there's no delay and no sync cycle you have to wait to happen. Anything you add in Outlook now instantly pushes over into CRM. And as you can see, it's already linked to John Abbott at Abbott Limited. Wow. Now, what else can you do? So if I open this up, I can complete it from here in CRM. Outlook doesn't understand the concept of completing anything. Things just sit there forever. That's fine. But CRM does. Activities get completed and moved over to history. And you can do that here. So you can say, I want to complete this. And do I want to schedule a follow-up from here? Was it completed now or when it was originally scheduled? And it'll automatically create a linked phone call, just as you would expect, and move this thing into, it stays on your Outlook calendar, of course, but it moves the activity in CRM over to the History tab and shows as complete over there. Now, while we're here, I want to show you a little bit more that it does, and that is if I click on John Abbott, it actually pulls up his data from CRM. So it gives me a little thumbnail of all the information we've got on John Abbott over in CRM, such as, you know, his address and phone numbers and things like that. I can also add him to my Outlook contacts if I want to right from here. If I want him kept as a contact in Outlook, I can do that right here as well. And you can see some other information here too, like what's the owner, who's his account manager. Here's his personal tab, which, you know, there's a personal tab over in CRM. Any linked opportunities that he's a contact on show up here. This is all really cool stuff. And then you can click on Go to CRM, and it'll open his CRM record in the web in Infor CRM for you. So you can quickly go look at all the other stuff about John Abbott right from here. So again, pretty powerful. We'll just complete this. It instantly completes it in CRM. You get a little message down here, I did it, I'm done. So it moves off that calendar and goes to history. All right, Xbar, we'll talk a little bit about that. You will notice that it looks different. This is part of their Soho user interface changes that they've made. So the colors and the graphics and so forth are a little bit different. They're kind of cleaner now, I guess is the best way to describe it. They're sort of cleaning it up and making it a little bit easier on the eyes. And now the other thing they've added here is if I wanted to add a new ticket from or for John Abbott, of course you could do this before, but now they've added area, category, and issue, which they didn't have before. So just like you can over in the CRM interface, you can do your ticket classification stuff right here inside of Xbar to get this thing assigned to the right people or categorized the right way. So it's got that drill through area, category, and issue story built right in here. So yelling at me. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is the mobile. That too has changed, and they've kind of done that same thing. You can see they've kind of adopted this, I don't know what you call this blue, kind of a medium blue color for the Xbar and for the new mobile. And so they've changed the calendar control in the mobile client now, which you're looking at. And you can shift into what we call the day view here, or if you click this little button, you actually see a list of all your scheduled items for this entire week, which is great. So these are all my activities for this week. If I just wanted to see the 28th, I can click there, or the 22nd, I can click there. So all that's changed, which I think is pretty nice. Now, the big news is offline data. And so what happens is when you first log in to the mobile client, it does a check to see if you have internet connectivity. Now, prior to this version of mobile, if you did not have internet connectivity, it would say, I can't log you in, and you're done. In this version, it starts up the program anyway, and it reads all the data that's been stored in your browser. And so it's based on the browser's capability to be storing offline data. And so you can have it actually remember backwards in time how much data you want it to be keeping through your offline options. How many days backwards do you want it to be storing data? And if you do go offline, it'll even show you how much offline data. I don't have any, but it would show you all the offline data that my browser's caching for me. So everything I've navigated to in the last day, 2 days, whatever, with mobile is constantly getting stored in this offline cache and is available to me if I go offline, which some of us do if we go into rural areas, that kind of thing. But then in addition to this kind of automatic cache, you can actually sync the data and have it show up in what's called the My Briefcase area. And I'll show you what that looks like here. Thought I had a, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the offline access is the ability for you to have what they call the briefcase. And you can pick and choose data that you want stored in that briefcase and choose to sync that data as well. So even if you haven't visited a record in mobile, you can still have your briefcase set up so that it will sync like all the accounts you have an appointment for this coming week, for example. So you can anticipate what it is you want it to store and have it prepped for the upcoming day using this new offline access. So then the final thing I wanted to talk about is if you do have the ERP integrated CRM system using Ion, you also have new in the mobile the ability to have quotes and orders. And so quotes and orders are now part of the mobile client if you have accounting integration. And so I know a lot of people have asked for that, and so that's going to be part of the standard mobile client as well. I don't have the latest version on this beta quite yet, but we've been told that absolutely will be there in the final release. So we're looking forward to that. All right. Well, that's kind of everything, Bree, I was hoping to show. Kind of got through it quick. Just wondering if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, we do have some questions that came in. And I will start with the first one is, will version 8.2.1 be compatible with the latest Microsoft technology, or do we need to upgrade to 8.3?
8.3 is the first version that supports it.
That was easy. Our next question is, will the enhancements work with Edge, such as word merge, etc.?
No, they don't. Good question. Word merging is still an ActiveX control from the 80s, and so that only works with IE. Now, on the roadmap, the very next version of Infor CRM, I think it's 8.3 UI or something, they've actually finally gotten rid of that whole mechanism, and they are currently recreating the whole word merge, and it's all going to be done server side. So once that happens, it now doesn't matter what browser you're using, and you can still use word merging. But unfortunately, that didn't make it into 8.3 as of today.
Okay, our next question is,